Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Jamaica Diaspora Agriculture Taskforce Women's Month panel. My name is Rachel Dulcine, and I will be the moderator for tonight's panel. I am the task force chair for the Jamaica Diaspora Worldwide Organization Task Force, and I am excited to be talking with three phenomenal women tonight who have made waves, no pun intended, in the agriculture sector, who have paved the way for so many women and have done work to enhance both agriculture and climate and even Jamaican culture and food. And so tonight we will be talking with Miss Nicola Phillips. Hi, Miss Phillips. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Miss Una Mae Gordon. Thank you for joining us. You're still on mute. And Miss Satrina Atkins. Hi, Satrina.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right, so welcome. Miss Gordon, you're still on mute, so anything awesome and wonderful that you're gonna say, we're not gonna be able to hear you. Okay, there we go. All right, welcome, ladies. Welcome. So I want to start off by talking about briefly having you talk about your journey to getting here. How did you get to the place where you are now in the agriculture sector? And so I'm going to start with Miss Una Mae Gordon. Una Mae, how did you get here? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay, so probably I'll start with hair. As you know, I am currently the principal director of the Climate Change Division within the Government of Jamaica, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. The journey to here. I'm an old farmer, as you all know, and for the old farmers online, I am an asphalt farmer. I am from St. Thomas, but okay. I came to Kingston for high school and remained in Kingston. So the old farmers who know me from town. Went to Camperdown High School, did the sciences, and then did youth service, not knowing what really you want to do. So I did the National Youth Service, taught in Trenchtown in the 1976 when all the war was going on. So not immune to anything that is going on now. And then once I left youth service, I went to JSA, the Twickenham Park campus. I registered, I had gone to UWI, didn't like it, gone to UTech or CASE at the time, didn't like it, gone to nursing school, didn't like it, gone to everywhere, gone to Teachers College, didn't like it, and then I landed at JSA, School of Agriculture, and the love affair with agriculture began. But before that, I was also a youth advocate, and I ran youth clubs. And for some of you who knew, the SDC Youth Club was the thing of the day. And I was the secretary of the Senior Members Council. So I used to plant some callaloo behind the fire brigade station. And everybody in Rollington town that had a piece of land that could plant anything, I was begging for that land for the youth to plant. I'm still involved in the youth movement to this day. And then after JSA, came back to town, and asphalt farmer don't get any work because I'm not going into the extension service. I decided that was not for me as well. And so I went to the Ministry of Agriculture and demanded a job. And because I demanded that job, I got a job as a farm manager in a very war-torn, political, at the time, very, very political farm. So I went to Tedford after I left. Tedford Seed Farm. Yes, Jamaica had a seed farm at the time. And so I was the assistant farm manager, subsequently became the farm manager of Tedford Seed Farm. And when they closed Tedford, I decided, well, it was time. I was not going to be closed out of a job again. So I went to Trinidad, did the bachelor's, came home from Trinidad, went to the Heart Trust as an admin assistant, opened Ebony Park, all the academies that the Heart Trust own now. I worked on opening them. So, and Ebony Park was the crowning glory for that. So I can take credit for actually getting Ebony Park up and running, Stony Hill, the cosmetology. And after that, I became a coordinator for Solidarity. And then after that, I went to Grace Kennedy to work as an agronomist. And then I left Grace Kennedy and went to do my master's. I decided agriculture was no longer for me. I'm leaving. It was, and so I left, went on to do a master's in environmental sciences because I thought, well, what better place to leave agriculture to? I am from country, they call me asphalt farmer, I need to be closer to the land. And so I did a master's in environmental sciences, came home, and at the time, the environmental movement was really very strong. Did the biodiversity, so was dabbling in biodiversity. So wrote the biodiversity strategy for Jamaica, wrote the first national communication for climate change, and a lot of other things. Went into international development, worked with the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture for 15 years. And then I decided it was time. And then I came back home in 2016, saw this job advertised, applied for it, got it, and the rest is history. I'm still here.
Wow, my goodness. Who says agriculture can't be exciting? Wow. So thank you so much, Uname, for sharing your long history of the long curving road that got you here. Citrina, can you briefly summarize? Can you briefly summarize your journey to getting to where you are now?
Well, I must say Miss Gordon's journey is quite exciting. For me, I actually, I did banking and finance at UWI, and I was in the corporate sector for a while. And then I remember one Sunday evening, my cousin showed me the farm page of a young lady who was doing very well in the sector. You know, she was operating an hydroponic farming business with greenhouses and so on. And for some reason, I have never considered agriculture before. So my interest was sparked when I saw farming in this light. Then I started, doing some research, and here I am today, after about a month or so, we decided, you know what, this is something that we want to get involved in. And then we planted our first crop, which was pumpkin, and the rest is history.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Nicola.
Uh-oh. So I'm supposed to share
how you got here.
Well, it's a very interesting road. I mean, I think for me, thinking back about farming, for me, it started with my father purchasing a farm. He's really a Kingstonian, but he wanted to get into farming, and he purchased a farm in Kitson Town, in Spanish Town area, and moved us out there. And then he realized the education system wasn't so hot out there, and so he moved us right back into Kingston, maybe within 6 months to a year. And I remember just being very upset with him that, he was taking us away from the farm. And so that kind of stuck with me because I really enjoyed just being out there. We had vegetables, we had some pigs and goats, and with a mango walk, and here he was taking us back into Kingston. And so coming back into Kingston, went to St. Teresa, went to Excelsior, and my parents ended up having a restaurant actually in New Kingston. It was only 24-hour restaurant. So I kind of came to the farming through food service. Went to the US, got my degree at Johnson & Wales for culinary, and started and opened a restaurant. I had a restaurant for 14 years in Philadelphia. And I used food there as a way of bringing community together. So the restaurant I had, we had a community garden. We started a farmers market in front of the restaurant, and just started looking at food for me through the quality of food. And of course, I always had my little house garden growing up, kind of those things we couldn't get. And so I kind of looked at food from that perspective, from the chef perspective. And so the work that I did in Philadelphia was about highlighting Jamaican cuisine to bring it up. So, it's not something you have to knock on a door and you'd be afraid of somebody going to shoot you in the neighborhood, to kind of bring it to another level. But then also looking at the quality of food that I was getting, I was able to kind of cook better Jamaican food in Philadelphia than I could in Jamaica. And so after a point in time, I said, I'm coming back home because I did a lot of community development work, have a master's in community economic development, along with my culinary degree. And so as a matter of fact, some health issues came up, but my doctor said, you'd be actually healthier if you were in Jamaica, eating Jamaican food than if you eat this food in America, to be honest. And so I came home with a thought of, farming my own produce. But as soon as I started doing the farming here, I realized I couldn't farm everything because there's a lot of farming I would have to do. And so I started to seek out other people that were interested in doing more organic, healthy food because I needed it for my health. And so we ran a program called One Cocoa, which we taught permaculture and organic farming together, hoping that people in our community would want to do that kind of farming. And very few people in my direct vicinity was interested in that kind of farming, but I found people across the island that was interested in it. And so they kept coming to us and getting the training for organic farming. And so that's kind of how we landed. So in one way, it was done in a very selfish way because I love to eat, I love to cook. How am I going to get this produce to us? And since that time, we've done about eight years of organic farming training and permaculture and tried to get it into CASE and other schools. And now we're actually going to be doing the first official training for heart with organic farming and hopefully writing the curriculum for permaculture. And so since that time, we established the organic farmers market or natural and organic farmers market in Kingston. And tomorrow we'll be doing our second launch or another launch of the farmers market in St. Anne. So it was a very interesting twist and turns, but I am, so happy that I got a chance to be back home in Jamaica doing this work. And I just wish, like, if my parents had known more about agriculture, or we have an idea that farmers are supposed to be stupid and we're not supposed to, none of my family encouraged me to go into farming. They're all like, oh, you want to be a doctor, a nurse, those kind of things. No one really encouraged us to do that. And if I had known, there were a lot of schools that were in the area that I moved to in Pennsylvania that I could have gone to agriculture school. And I felt like I missed out. If I had known about that, I would have done that. But in those days, nobody encouraged you to do that. So now I'm trying to encourage people to understand that farming is not everything that we do, we live, we grow, it comes out of the earth. The fabric is, the cottons, everything, the dyes, everything is coming from the natural world and nature. So trying to encourage people along the value chain, don't think about just the seed, but think about seed to fork and all the other things that have to do with agriculture. So I'm very happy that I got a chance to come back to that farm that was in a sense my father took us off, and now I'm back. So that's how I got into farming.
So essentially, you're 3 women farmers, right? Who had this really unique journey getting here. And normally when you think of farmers, you think of a man. It's normally a male figure. Even when they show farmers on TV, in art, whatever the case is, it's rarely ever a woman. What are some of the challenges that you faced, or other women farmers are facing in the agriculture sector? I guess we'll start with Citrina. What are some challenges women are facing? Women farmers.
Well, I think females are not so recognized. Traditionally, females are not very recognized when they choose farming as a career as their male counterparts. However, I see where that's changing now, where, more females are getting more recognition, because from my experience, I'm getting a lot of recognition. And not only that, my male counterparts, they are welcoming me in the sector, and they want to keep me in the sector. So they'll be, very helpful when it comes to this, giving me information on how to care for my crops and so on. So I believe that it is changing. We just need more education around, the topic of females in agriculture and the role we play in the sector.
So I know that Nicola and Uname, who are what I would consider respectfully, right? Elders in this community, people with wisdom, the experience, who's traveled this road for a long time. And although, as Katrina mentioned, the tides are changing and there's more inclusivity that's happening within agriculture, I'm sure that part of your journey, the twists and turns and your beginnings were probably not as inclusive as Katrina. So do either of you mind sharing a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you faced in this sector when you first started? And maybe even what are still some challenges that women face that we kind of need to address? Either one of you, either one.
Probably I could kick off the call, and then I think as Katrina said, I think women are no longer there's no longer tokenism for women in agriculture. I think that has changed tremendously over time, and it is probably because of the actions of some of us, as you call elders, in the past, who have taken up the space and remain in the space despite that. But I think one of the biggest challenge that women faced at the time when I was in agriculture, when I was called it in mainstream agriculture, is that people didn't think that you could occupy positions. And so if the position of X came up, then, and I'll give you a perfect example of I remember coming back with my degree, totally qualified. I think my grade point average was 4, so I qualified for a first class degree from the university by grade point, but because I entered part 2 as a graduate of Jamaica School of Agriculture, you didn't qualify to have that. And so came back, and then there was this job in the ministry. and so, but there was another fellow who was a friend of another fellow who was not qualified, and there was a project. And so he became the project manager and I the assistant. And he knew nothing about project management or any of that. And every day came to me, the PS would say to me, you have to help him, you have to help him. I'm like, no, not gonna happen. No, he's the project manager. He needs to tell me what to do. I'm the assistant. So that kind of barrier, I think, still exists, not only in agriculture. I don't think it is only in agriculture. I think it is across a wider space. But I think one of the good thing about it is that women are seeing themselves now as occupiers of the space. And therefore, once we continue before there was a little bit of shyness, there was a little bit of timidity. I don't see that anymore. So that is one. The other thing is that it was a question of ownership, that the land was owned by the man or the man's parents, and then you join, and therefore that ownership. So the man farm and the woman go to the market and then come back, and then the money is given to the man. So that kind of ownership structure, and I think that has completely changed. But still, there are still barriers, because if you go to the bank, I spend a little time in the bank too with all that distinguished career, that you would see a man coming in the bank and he has nothing, no collateral, nothing. He walks into the bank manager's office and the bank manager would come out and tell you, help him out and see what we can do with him with a small loan. A woman would come in with everything and they are sending her back all the time. Can you get so-and-so to sign for you, get so-and-so. That still exists. I think we have moved past there, but those in the early days prevented progress from being made. And I'll stop there.
Well, I totally agree with you on all your points. And I'm still seeing that today, because in terms of, access to funds to start farms and that kind of stuff absolutely is there. I feel that one of the things that's made it a little bit easier is the technology in terms of the farming. Like in the last couple of courses I have taught here, has been the predominantly women have actually taken the course, because they are now having more access to land. So either family land has been left with them and the men not interested in it, and they've been picking it up and they're the ones that have been doing it. So they definitely have more access to land. And so the way how they're more organized is also allowing them to have more access and using technology. as it's one of the challenges I have. The men are not really interested in the technology part. They're interested in having notebooks and keeping notebooks and anything, but the women are more likely to do it. And so they end up being much better farmers. It's indicative when I look at the farmers market, not just women coming to sell the main fruit, but actually are farming or farming alongside in a higher percentage. So I definitely see that. For me, the barriers that I face, I still think I face them. I will go into a particular ministry and I'm not part of a network for the most part. I was part of the Old Boys Network. So
yeah, I was about to say, they call it the Good Old Boys Club here in
Good
the
Old Boys
US.
Network. So I'm not part of that network. So I must not have any sense. So I must go find the man. So I actually have another counterpart that certain places I'm like, all right, come with me because you know how to open this door. And I'm the one that actually have the information and the knowledge of how to do certain things. I feel that I see it all the time. And I also feel that, it's challenging because when you, especially the banking, the education piece of it, I go into even some of the schools and I see when they're giving out tasks for the women to do, is like, okay, you go be the secretary kind of thing. They're not encouraging the women to actually be involved. And the women do want to be involved physically in the work. It's kind of like, okay, you go sit down there and that kind of stuff. But I've been seeing, globally, not just, obviously in Jamaica, but globally, I see a lot of women farmers that are doing it. And I also came from a sector, from the food service, where only men were chefs. I came into a point when I was even in school, it was very few women chefs. So having to kind of carry that, having the ideas and knowing that you have something that you want to offer, and you have to kind of wait for the man to do it, and then it's okay. And I've proven that time and time again in certain products that I'd want to bring to the Jamaican market. I remember specifically, I was saying we need to grow some kale because I need it for juicing, and people are getting more healthy. And they're like, that will never grow. It will not going to grow. There's no way. That's just foolishness. And a man did it that I trained, and everything is okay. Everything is a new thing. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm the one that. So we get a lot of that happens in the sector. But I'm seeing that as it really is changing, and more women are actually getting into it. And I actually have a thing, when I look back historically, it was the women, yes, we did go and take the produce to market, but women always had their gardens.
Always, yeah.
To feed. And we actually did a lot of exchange of selling and that kind of stuff, growing things in our own kitchen gardens, even all the way back from, when we talk about Africa and before the enslavement period, women always did that. So it's kind of interesting now, it made that very patriarchal shift. And then now we kind of are moving back. But I feel like we need to create balance in it, because it's not just about, yes, women, but a balance in it that you can just treat us as an equal, because we do have a capacity to do this work and the knowledge and experience as well, and to be fair with us. So I want to see a more balanced approach to it, but it's still the Old Boys Network going on there. And I would love it to see more changes happening, especially in the ministry.
As you both were, Uname and Nicola, as you were talking, I thought of the ending, a phrase in one of Maya Angelou's poems, "Still I rise," right? That despite some, the journeys you've had and the challenges and the barriers that you face, you rose to the occasion anyway. And that's what we do as women in any sector, right? We just rise. We're like mist. We go through things, we go around things, but we absolutely rise. Uname, you mentioned a phrase when you were talking that I loved, and I wrote it down. You said, "Occupy the space." And I want to ask the three of you a question related to occupying the space. Now, lots of time when we think of agriculture, even myself, you only think of farming when you think of the agriculture sector. But the agriculture sector, from what I'm hearing from your journeys, is a wide and vast sector. Nicola, you mentioned, if I knew about farming in this sector when I was a young girl, I would have been interested in that. But you just know, hard farmers with tough hands and dry feet, and they're in the sun and the heat, working all day. So when we talk about occupying the space, what are some of the spaces that exist in agriculture beyond farming that young girls or women are occupying, or you want to see more women occupying in the agriculture sector? And go ahead, Unit.
I think I use that phrase all the time because I think we have to change the narrative that agriculture is not farming. Farming is just one pillar of what we do. I never owned a farm. I live on a farm. If you look outside where I am, I have every fruit tree that you can think of. I go pick my breadfruit, my mango, my sweet salt, my raspberry, my guinea, everything is there. I never planted them. I bought it like that. I bought a fully fruited land and my ackee, everything. But we have to change the language because we keep saying that agriculture is farming. I never thought of myself as a farmer, ever. I was a farm manager, but when I occupied that space as the farm manager, every single day I entered that farm, people knew I was the farm manager because I dressed differently. I handle myself differently. When I was a farm manager, when I was a warehouse manager, processing 40,000 pounds of yam from up at Sawyer's in Trelawney every day, I only wore white linen shirt and a jeans pants that went to the laundry like the Mary did at school. Only white. And I always had my jacket in my office, in the warehouse, all the time, so that people knew that you are in this space, occupying this space at the time, but at the same time. That was one. The second one is that you have to be at the table. And I think part of the challenge with us women is that we are afraid to be at the table. I used to teach a course. When we started the network of rural women producers, and I will take credit for that as well. And when we started the network of rural women producers, I used to say to the rural women, yeah, we are rural women. You are rural women. But I needed to teach them how to do computers. I had a course on social skills. And I used to shamelessly beg when I worked in the OECS down in in St. Lucia, so shamelessly call the Governor General that I hear is having a cocktail and say, well, I have 2 rural women I would like to bring to the cocktail that you have invited me to, so that they can participate in the space. Teach them social skills. How do they network? We don't network. Women don't network. That's what the men do. So you have this boys club and they meet every Friday evening and they network and they work out, they solve the problem of the world. And we are sitting at home feeling sorry that we are not in a space. And therefore, part of getting in there and occupying that space is to be present. And I think part of what I do to be here is to be present, especially even this work that I have now. Be present and don't be afraid. Don't be shy to be present, because that's your space that you need to occupy.
I love that. To occupy the space, you must be present. I love that. Satrina or Nicola, when we talk about occupying the space and the opportunities that exist in the agriculture sector beyond farming, what are some of those that you think women and girls need to take more advantage of?
There's so many opportunities here. You're talking about a farmer and the different kinds of farming. Right now we need seeds on the island like crazy. You could just be a seed farmer. Working in post-harvest, the whole value chain, we need very capable women. We need people in accounting. The whole idea of most of the time when we look at farmers, we kind of just got in the habit of we farm and we go market and we sell. But we really need to be stepping up our game, and we need people that understand the accounting part of this. So our farmers, because my thing is, unless you know your score, are you really in the game? So it's a business, and really try to look at it as a business. I look at the tech pieces of it. I was actually on a call with combining Florida State University and people at the forestry department and working on a project. And there's a young lady that's there, and she wants to do work with the drone work in terms of looking at what's canopies and what's going on. Farming is also about the medicinals. There's so much more people that are looking for what we have on island to export in terms of medicinals. We have so much amazing biodiversity here. It's not even funny. So there's going into that sector. There's so many different areas. So when you think about it, you just think of, oh, somebody with their boot overhauls and in the field daily. Also think of we need somebody even with the farmers market, just run our social media accounts just to spread the communication, all these different aspects of farming. So it's never just about that one piece of it, but everything. And then all the other things about levels, farming, the value added component of when you get the products, the post-harvest, everything. So when people think of it, they need to, it's important for them to understand. And when we teach, we want people to understand that piece. Then we're talking about, is doing climate change stuff. We're talking about permaculture and teaching and all the levels of that, understanding the zones and sectors and the forestry part of it in terms of agroforestry work. So there's so many opportunities there. And you talk about holding your space is just, for me, a lot of it is for me listening to spirit and what the ancestors, and there's an energy around this farming thing that they're saying they want us to restore. There's a lot of work now in the restoration work that needs to be done, because a lot of the farms were about extraction and taking out, coming from that colonial days. Now the work is about how do you regenerate? How do you bring life back into these lands that have been destroyed? So there's a lot of work around that, and she's actually doing really amazing work in her field around that. So there is a lot of work to be done. And if there was ever a time to jump into it, is really a time now. So some of these other sectors or industries are kind of, they're moving, but something you can always depend on is the land that we're on and that we're living. This is the most important thing.
And that's for any country you go to, right? Even if you live in, they call it the concrete jungle, there are people growing things in apartments, on fire escapes, creating greenhouses in their apartments. So you're right. The idea of growing your own food really is something that you can take anywhere that you go in the world. You were saying something?
No, I used to say at one time that we do agriculture 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And it tastes good.
And if anybody wants to know what profession we are in, just remember that we are in the profession of feed the world. We do agriculture 3 times a day, every day, all the time. And so the importance of it and how it is linked, and we can find, I did a study once where we were looking for people in agriculture. And in every single profession that we can find, we could find someone who their base was in agriculture.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Which makes it this interesting wing of everything that you have. But I leave it there. I leave it.
So Satrina, okay, go ahead. I was gonna say, Satrina, what are your thoughts?
I also like to add that I need to see more persons occupying the space in the software development side of agriculture, because farming needs to be more efficient, and to do so, we have to introduce technology in our farming practices. So software developers, food scientists, I want to see more females in playing agronomist roles as well. So there are various aspects of agriculture that, is lacking when it comes to gender diversity. And I'm for the change, so I'm always going to advocate for more females to occupy these spaces.
All right, so just from the 3 of you talking, I made a list of all the opportunities, all the roles, positions, how women can occupy these spaces. And so if you're watching this and you are interested in a career change, interested in this conversation that we're having in like agriculture, never thought about that. Let me list for you what we've heard just now really quickly. You can be a farm manager, you could be a warehouse manager, a seed farmer, you could be part of the value chain, accounting. I added legal right? Because there are legal issues around agriculture that they need lawyers who are versed in that to help, not just with advocacy, but also with legal defense or criminal defense or whatever it may be, right? I would also think you need insurance companies. Do you work in insurance? The farms need to be insured. The products that are being packaged and sold come with insurance. So if someone eats it and gets sick, then what happens? Software developers, folks who can do tech support, medicinal products. So if you are herbalist, right? Social media managers, we know that's the whole big rage right now, right? Advocacy, so folks who can do advocacy work. And yes, you can get paid for doing advocacy work. Packaging, I thought about the jars and plastics and the things that need to be made and sold wholesale to farmers who need to package, right? So even packaging, work in climate, you need scientists, right? The world is changing as we look at global warming. What are some of the things that are happening that are going to impact farming? The soil, how is the soil changing? I don't know much about agriculture. I'm just kind of from my little science class I took as a kid, right? The pH balance of the soil, right? But also educating. You need folks who can educate not just on the academics of agriculture, but the business of agriculture. And then agronomist, which is a word that Katrina used, which hope I pronounced it right. So as you can see, I just listed a long list of opportunities available in the sector for women that have nothing to do with farming. You don't have to touch a backhoe, a hole, dig a hole, anything at all, but these are opportunities that exist in the agriculture sector for women, which is amazing because this conversation really even has me kind of my mindset shifting, really relooking at this particular sector and all that it has to offer when it comes to women and girls, right? We want to get girls into STEM, right? Those careers. And normally when you think about that, I have rarely ever heard the agricultural sector being an option for young girls who want to be involved in STEM. So where do you think we can start? When we look at the generation, we have our generation now of young girls, right? Where do you think we can start when it comes to young girls and introducing them to the vast opportunities that exist in agriculture? Where should we start with that?
Well, I want to actually step back a second. I think that it's very important for us to actually really think about what we're saying, because I personally want people to actually start by touching the soil. And as you said, May, that no sector that you could come up with that it doesn't have to do with the soil. Even if you're doing IT and all it's still minerals that are coming from the soil that you're now making into these computers. I think it's very important because what I'm getting, we see people at the other stage when they have become disconnected from the food source and they have been working, whatever job they're working, and they're not well, and they have to come back to, no matter what, food is a medicine. So I want them to start there by understanding the environment that they're in, by understanding the soil and the importance of the soil, understanding the wind, the rain, I don't want to wait until I'm 40 to understand the cycles. I want to understand what is beneath my feet, what am I eating, and the choices that I can make, because you can do all that other work, but if you don't understand basically how food is grown. I literally we had a group that came to us the other day to come and look at our post-harvest space. And I had to explain why it is that we don't want people to spray our food, because it's spray the lands because it's damaging the soil and you're going to uptake it into the plant and you're going to eat it and your body doesn't know how to deal with it. And then you end up at the doctor spending all that money that you just work for to get well again. And I feel that, yes, they have, yes, you need to go into all these positions, but it is insane that we have people that don't understand. No other creature on the planet don't know how to access or know what is appropriate to eat. We will actually go into a store and pick up all kinds of junk and not understand how important it is for our body, because we're not going to be here if we don't take care of this amazing temple. So I want us to start there. I want to educate our girls, because they're often the one, even though it's supposed to be shifting, that they need to know how important the soil is and the environment around them. And from that, they can then take that and build and do other things with it. So let us not say we don't, kind of like, oh, you can just do accounting. You said, as you said, you have to eat 3 times a day at least, right? The hope that you get an opportunity to eat 3 times a day. And then you know what you're not putting in and what is not appropriate. So you can make a change around that. So I think that is the first place I'd want us to start, because, we're getting all this other education, and a doctor will go to medical school and get 1 class of nutrition, only 1. But this temple that we live in, this body, is all about nutrition. And so it's so important for me when I work with and I train our farmers, they're the doctors, because food is your medicine. If you understand how to eat and what you're putting together, the combinations, then you can survive. But if you don't understand that. So for me, it's starting from the very beginning, how important this environment that we live in. And as the work that UNMA is doing is looking at how this climate change is affecting all these different elements. If that gets affected, what do we have? Right? So it's very important for our girls to really, as they come, or anybody who's coming into this or is listening to this message, is to think about it. I have people that have not put their feet in soil. They haven't touched soil. There's no grounding there. And if you're not grounded, what are you doing? So I really am trying to get people to make that go back to that connection, because without food, what do we have? Food is a medicine. So anyway.
I'm going to go to the other end.
That's why we're here.
Because as I said, I don't own a farm. Never farmed a day in my life. But I consider myself one of the, as what you said, the grandmother in the agriculture sector.
Yeah. Elders of the agriculture sector.
But I want to also go back to where I started about the profile of the sector. If we are going to get girls in STEM, which is really where we want them, trust the science, agriculture itself, not farming, but agriculture. The bedrock of agriculture is the science. And all the old farmers will remember the organic chemistry and the botany and the bio that we stress with, but we trust the science. But once that is finished, and then we want to move forward, then the profile of the sector has to change. And I think that's also part of it. If we are going to, we forget the pastors for the spiritual food, and we have a lot of old farmers who are pastors in this space. And I hope they're online listening to us, because that also, pastors, you in agriculture, you graduate with agriculture, you go form a church. you go have a church. We have many old farmers with churches across the space. But despite that, I think we have to change the profile of the sector. If we have money, we make money, we carry to a bank. And the buildings, the bank buildings are, when you left high school, you wanted to go work in one of those buildings, don't it? You wanted to go work in a bank. If you want spiritual food, then you have these huge churches, mega churches. So you go into these mega churches. You either want to become a sister in the church or that kind of thing. If you want an education, you want to go to the best school, KC, JC, whatever, the huge buildings. We in agriculture, we want to sell our food. They give us a dirty market. I'm not going in there. I am really not going in there to say, no, I don't want anybody to see me going into, are you in a little car park trying to ply your trade? There is no money there. So I think we have to begin to change the profile of the sector to say this sector is relevant to the society.
Farming is sexy.
Yes. And as I said,
I missed that totally.
No, I remember when I was launching the youth forum in St. Vincent, and I said, farming is sexy.
Oh,
and I remember
I heard sexy. I was like, okay, back up a little. I don't want to see
at the time, right. the prime minister, who is still the prime minister, said, he picked up on that, and he said, and he made a whole speech. He said, the reason why women in Africa have so much money and all of their husbands are farmers, It's because when the men go on the hillside and the women see these good big muscles and the sweat, they have no choice. Farming is sexy. And that was, and I always remember that. But I think the profile in the sector has to change. When we depict a farmer, we depict a man, a little man with a little hoe and him little hat and a little tear up half pants, and that is what we advertise as the profession. And then the other person with a big nice pickup and this and that. We have to start to change the profile for the young boys and girls that this is what. So the IT, the transport, the technology, the renewable energy, all of that. And that is the only way for the young people to understand the advocacy, to see that this is a sector and a space that you can occupy.
Can I say one more thing? It's interesting because when I'm in the US, there's so many young people that are now moving back to back on the land and back on the farms, and they have made it sexy. They have the farmers market. The farmers market is like amazing. It's vibrant. It's colorful. People are doing their value-added products. Some of the things that we've been, trying to do and promote at Ujima at the farmers market at Hope Gardens. So when you come, it's like it's a place to be. It's a hangout. It's hip. And so I think that's one of the things. So when we train our farmers, that's why we like farming. We're going to put out a calendar with all our sexy farmers, both male and women, because they're doing it and they're now being able to create their livelihoods off of it. Yes, absolutely. And looking at the numbers that go through and trying to get more people to look at it in a new way, not just, oh, it's just some person that is not really that educated being able to doing it, and look at all the things that a farmer has to know to be able to bring a crop to market. It's math, it is science, it is everything. So yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you that we have to do that. That's the work.
Yes, and it goes back to treating our farms as businesses, because that will aid us into changing the mindset around who is a farmer. We'll now start seeing farmers as businessmen and businesswomen as opposed to the little man with his machete. So it is important that we do this to attract more persons in the sector.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've gotten some tips for how we can begin to introduce our young girls and boys too, but this month is about women. So we're going to say girls to agriculture. So we have from starting them with the soil, understanding what that is, how the soil works. And as you said, Nicola, I've put my feet in the soil. And let me tell you, that's a good feeling right there when you're barefoot and you kind of dig your feet into, the same thing happens with sand, right? But with soil, it really, the coolness of it, and just how it feels against your feet. Introducing, so we have one end, the starting point, which is the basics of what agriculture is. And then we have a whole gamut. We have careers and opportunities that exist that Una may mention that we need to expose children with from their young, right? To introducing, have folks come and speak to kids and change the pictures that they see, the images that they see about what agriculture is, what farming is. And then we have business, that this actually is a sector that needs to be, that folks need to look as business opportunities, not just hobbies where you're growing a little garden and you're growing your food, but it's a business, and there's some principles, there's some concepts that we need to understand, from customer service to health and wellness, to making sure the food that you're selling is safe to sell, to packaging, to pricing, how do you price, to buying wholesale, all these pieces that go into that business aspect. So really what we're looking at is an entire curriculum, really, that can be developed, especially in a country like Jamaica, where agriculture is really the backbone, right, of the country. Everywhere is land. Like, you can't escape that in a place like Jamaica. And really beginning to have our young people now understand that that's not just in the past. It's not something that people used to do long ago. It's still current, it's still relevant, and it's still really important for us to understand taking care of our soil, taking care of our environment, and how that impacts future generations to come. So the three of you, what you said, have really kind of holistically drew us a really good picture of what that can look like for young girls and boys in school. So I want to shift a little bit, if you want to follow me over here for a little bit. So I want to talk about leadership and your own journey of understanding yourself as a leader in the sector, and I want you to think of it not just in the career path that you've taken and how you've kind of evolved as a leader, but what have you learned about yourself, your capabilities, how have you evolved? So I want to start with the leadership question. What are some of the leadership lessons, one or two leadership lessons that you have learned over the course of your journey in the sector? And I'm gonna have to call on folks again. All right, we'll start with Satrina this time. Satrina, what it's like, oh my goodness. What are some of the leadership lessons that you have learned for yourself over your journey?
Well, definitely, operating my own farming business, I learned that being a leader, persons are looking up to you to chart the way and, show them the way forward. And it's not just about delegating. You have to, immerse yourself and play the part also. You can't just sit aside and delegate your duties and expect that the job will be done efficiently. You have to be there on the ground with them and learning. And for me, I did not do agriculture in school, or I don't have any prior agricultural background. So I relied also on my workers to teach me, the ins and outs. To teach me the ins and outs, and they rely on me, to show them how they can organize their businesses and, so that we can move forward.
Okay. Uname?
I think one of my greatest lessons is that you have to believe in yourself. And if you are going to lead, then you probably should know what a good follower look like. So those, I think those are two things, and therefore also that for me, I like relationships. So my leadership is about relationship, and so building teams is important. I tell my friends think I work hard. I tell them I'm very lazy. And therefore, if I am so lazy, then you have to have good people around you. And so that skill to crowding good people and crowding people. And when it's not working for you, always be willing to separate yourself. I think as a leader, you have to know that this is not working. So either get rid of it or get rid of someone. And those things have propelled us in terms of my leadership. I've always, fortunately, have good jobs or good relationship. I've had some real bad ones too, which you just, as in Jamaica, we say, take away yourself from. But overall, I think that you have to, as a leader, believe in yourself. Not that you should not have fear, because fear is good. And sometimes you really don't know at the end of the day how it work out. I think it's that innate ability to believe that propels you over. Apart from all the other standard leadership qualities that exist, that you are this and you are that. But there are certain innate things that within you that you have to be able to move forward a step at a time.
Love that.
So okay now. So for me, I did everything that Uname says. For me, a lot of it, leadership is about service. What am I? I'm here to be of service. And I didn't, when I first grew up, I wasn't really a person that would like take charge of certain things. And always I kind of being pushed in the front to do things and that kind of stuff. And at some point I had to say, all right, I'm going to accept this thing, because I came here to be, I feel like I came on the planet to do good work. And so I'm always trying to figure out what it is that God and the ancestors want me to do. And so I'm just here to be of service. So I kind of listen and I say, what is it that I'm supposed to do, Lord, or, God, ancestors? And then I just kind of step to it. So for me, it's always about being of service. And then also for me, looking at things is as clear agreements, trying to make sure I have clear agreements with folks. And we have a bunch of different methodologies I use to because there's a saying that the drunk sees one thing and the bartender sees something else. And so in us working together, I look at historically everything that's happened to us, especially us as women. We don't trust each other. We don't really work together well. All the work that I'm doing at this time is moving into a new age of how do we work together? Because if we could learn to work together, nothing can stop us as a people. And so now it's time for us, as everything has been kind of forming and gelling, is how do we create those opportunities that we can work cooperatively? And so that's what I'm right now about, trying to put some methodologies in place, whether it's a formal consensus process or sociocracy or different things to get our folks to start understanding that we need to work together to transition through this. So it's been a very interesting journey. And sometimes, as you may say, that sometimes when things are not right, you just have to trust. If you're feeling it, that spider sense is saying this ain't right, this is not functioning, is to know when to cut that relationship that is not a positive relationship for yourself, and to be able to step into the next opportunity. Because if you let go of that, the very next person, the person that you really need, it will be there. But sometimes we hold on to some negative energies and negative people that are not supportive of what we're doing. And we know that we're trying to do the right thing, but people bad mind or whatever, and they're trying to pull you down. And you just have to be, all right, this is not appropriate. And then you just have to stand and be firm about it. I'll tell you one story. When I first opened the restaurant in Philadelphia, I actually hired a cousin, and he was an older cousin of mine. As a matter of fact, when I was a little bit, he was cooking. And so we thought, we could get together and do this thing. And every day this guy would leave and I'd be stuck, and I was about 24, 25 when I opened the restaurant, stuck with all this work. And finally came to a point where I had to fire him. So here it is me having to come up with enough strength, and energy to I'm going to fire my older cousin. And finally I just had to do it because it wasn't really supporting of my growth. And so he called my grandmother complaining, and my grandmother said, what you did, she's going to, and that gave me enough strength to say, listen, even if it's family and they're not doing what you need them to do, you need to make some decisions and step out of that. And so ever since that time, when people aren't doing right, my mother would tell you that I'm not putting up with a whole lot of foolishness. So you have to do it gently, but you still have to do it. And so I think sometimes as women, we worry about, what somebody's going to say and how we're going to do it and all that stuff. And we just have to we can be kind when we do have to make those decisions, but we need to move to our businesses, our work is not going to prosper because we have people that are not appropriate in our spaces. And so that was one of the lessons in terms of being a leader that I had to learn how to do and feel comfortable to do it.
Nicola, yes. I am happy. I'm so vindicated. I fired my brother when you were coming.
Yes.
I fired my brother. Yes. So I am so vindicated. Thank you very much.
And I fired my brother as well. You tell you.
Wow. I mean, you the three of you have dropped some real gems here with us tonight. And so there are two questions I want to get to before I know time is, we're ticking down, but there's two questions I want to get to before we log off for tonight. The first one is, the other day I was talking with a friend of mine. I'm part of an accountability group, and we hold each other accountable for a lot of things. One of the things that she put in the group that she has found that the perception of balance in life. And so she said, life's not about balance, it's about harmony. And I wrote that down because I was just because I was blown, because most of the time growing up, we hear about you got to balance it all. And I, as old as I am, I could never figure that out, balance it. But when she said, Rachel, it's not about balance, it's about harmony. It's about all those pieces, all those hats you wear, all those things you do, finding the sweet spot of harmony, not balance. I mean, it just really blew my mind. So my question to you, and it's not about balance, it's about harmony. I know that from your experiences and from your resume and just from listening to you talk, meeting you here for the first time, I know there's many hats you probably worn over the course of your life. So 3 of you. How have you, I don't want to use the word balance, but how have you found the harmony? What, at this point in your life, how do you harmonize all the pieces of your life so that there is fulfillment, so you get rest, so you have self-care, so you feel accomplished, so you feel that you're taking care of yourself, as they say here in Maryland, taken care of. How have you harmonized all these pieces of you and being in this sector to really be at peace with what you do?
You want me to start?
Sure.
For me, one, you have to like yourself.
Mm.
That's the first thing. I like myself. And therefore, I don't want to get to a point where I can't exist. And therefore, in order for me to exist, I need my job, I need my friends, I need my social work, I need my volunteer work, I need my young people to keep me young, I need my rural women, I need my youth forum, and all of that. And so I really, really agree. It's not about balance. It's what makes you happy. Because if what you do makes you happy, then the harmony comes in and it doesn't feel burdensome. Anytime you get to a point where what you do feels like a burden, then there is no harmony in what you're doing. And if it is a burden, then there is no balance. So we leave the balance out.
Right.
But if whatever you do, if you fill each hour of the day with something that you like to do, something that is worthwhile doing, something that you feel that you are impacting a life on, because at the end of the day, every single thing that I do, I hope that I am impacting a life. And I almost every morning I wake up, I said, Lord, if I can touch one today, then that would be great, because at the end of the year, I am touching 365. Yeah. And so it's really doing what you like to the best of your ability, and at the same time, having fun with it. So work should be fun. Whether you are paid or not. I do much more unpaid work than paid work.
Don't be
a whole lot.
Far more unpaid work than paid work. But as long as you really like what you do, then the harmony will come, and you will feel as if to say tomorrow is another day, and you will get sleep, because you go to bed very, very peaceful and you sleep.
Well, Miss Gordon, you know, they say when you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yes.
Yes. So that is actually what I live by, because I wasn't fulfilled in the corporate sector. You know, I couldn't understand why I have to wake up every morning, go and sit before a computer for 8 hours, 9 hours a day, and then I come back home and I do the same thing. And then I'm only looking forward to the weekends, which is the Saturdays and the Sundays. And the weekends would finish so quickly, and then, you know, I have to start over again. So I wanted to create harmony in my life. At first, I thought it was balance, but when you explained the approach, you know, the viewpoint of harmony, I have to, adapt that. And so when I'm on the farm, it is very soothing. You know, you're in nature, you're immersed in nature, and nature is the best therapy. You know, yes, it is the best therapy, and it's good for your mental health. And every day when I go to the farm, you know, we have a little shed where we sit and we do some outdoor cookings, and, you know, we all talk and so on. And we just relax. So I'm relaxing while I'm working. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's doing what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I second that, sister.
Well, for me, I think in my early days, I was trying to create the balance. And there's a thing about when I do like the I Ching and that stuff that talks about balance, right?
Mhm.
But what I had to do was I literally had to fall in love with what I'm doing. Because I was doing some things before, I really wasn't in love with it. I was very miserable. Even though I made a lot of money and it was all, I mean, everything that people from outside people looking in and, wow, she's so successful and she made all this money and she has all this stuff. I was miserable. And so I got to a point where someone said to me, you need to write what you want to do. And I just didn't think, I'm like, I can't write that. And it took me about 3 months to write. And when I wrote and I kept writing and writing, and finally got to a point where I could really write and dream for what I wanted, I had this release and it was like this bubbling thing that came out of my system. And I was like so happy. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm writing this down. I'm not letting this go. And so what I wrote when I was in Philadelphia was I wanted to start this community. And, you know, I would say as a Black Jamaican girl, you talk about you're going to start a village. Are you crazy? And it sounded like a crazy thing, but literally that's what we've done. We've created this intentional community. And so I'm absolutely in love. Nobody has to pay me any money to do what I do. I work sometimes 24/7 because it's something that I'm passionate about. I love doing I love every aspect of what I'm doing. Sometimes I get a little frustrated when I get mad when I don't get the resources to do certain things, but I'm just like, I am in love with what I do. And so that's what anybody comes to me and they, you know, we talk about, I teach in the class, I teach about the in love, not just love, but being in love, because when you're in love with something, it activates everything. And so for me, that's what, you know, in terms of creating harmony, is that I've actually came to a resonance that I'm actually doing the things that I've always wanted to do, that I was afraid that I didn't have the capacity, or how are you going to say you're going to do this thing? And really stepping out and just trusting really God and the ancestors that everything that I need is going to be. I just ask, I'm like, I need this. And it happens, because that's just the connection that I know that I have with the divine, and I know that I'm doing good work. And so, yes, I'm totally in love with what I'm doing. And so that's where my harmony comes in, because I just work. I just love it, you know? So I don't know everybody else, but that's what happens.
I mean, this is great. So essentially it's two things. You have to be in love with yourself.
Love yourself.
I have to be in love with what you do. Well, actually, three things. I need to fire family members who are messing with your harmony. I don't know. Three things you learn. If you don't learn anything else from our conversation tonight, you get all the opportunities in the agriculture sector. If you forget about the challenges for women, the journey of these three amazing women, remember, you have to be in love with yourself. Yes. You have to be in love with what you do. And fire those family members who are playing around with harmony. Get rid of them. Gotta go. So the last question is, I want to end on a celebratory note, because I know that each of you on this journey have received some accolades, some awards, some recognition for just the amazing work that you have done in this sector. And so I would like each of you, because I call it, you gotta be bossy, right? You gotta, as women, sometimes we don't do it. We say, oh yeah, I got this award, and you put it in a corner, like I do. I have a corner where I just dump them when I get them. Instead of really celebrating, because we want young girls to see that this sector is right. We want to change the conversation. Yes, you can win awards. You can be recognized for doing amazing work, being in this sector. So I would like each of you to tell us, tell me, tell those who are listening, what are some of the awards, the accolades, the pat on the shoulder, the amazing things that you've been recognized for your work in this sector? I will start with Satrina.
Yes.
We'll see.
So in 2020, I was awarded the Prime Minister's National Youth Award for Excellence in Agriculture. In 2021, I was awarded the Caricom Young Farmer of the Year. And it is very surreal, because I didn't set out to get an award. You know, I was just doing what I love, as we spoke about in the conversation. And for me to be awarded for doing what I love, of course, I'm going to continue. You know, it's a confirmation that I'm on the right track. So these awards basically are put in place to make agriculture attractive and to show young persons that, you know, your work is being recognized in the sector, and we want you in the sector also. Because I recently heard that the average age of farmers has reduced to 40 something now. So that is an excellent thing. I think before that it was in the 60s. So, you know, these things are actually attracting more and more young persons in this space. And the award is not just for me, but also my team, because without them, I would not have been awarded. I could not have been in the agriculture space, because it takes a lot of work, and without a solid team behind you, you know, you won't be successful. So I have to treat my team as my equals, because, you know, we learn from each other at the end of the day. Thank you.
And congratulations. Yes. Tell you, well, we need to understand that when one woman wins, we all win. That's how I am. When I see, especially if you're Jamaican, that's extra sweet for me. But when you get recognized, when you win, it's a win for us all. So congratulations. And I know that there are many more awards and accolades for you in the future as you lead the way for your generation. Unime, come on now. I know you have enough things.
Yeah, enough. But I think I probably in 3 phases. When I worked at ICA, and it's an institution that had offices in 34 countries. I was a representative, and I remember one year going to a meeting, and I was awarded Director General's Award for Excellence among my peers, and that was selected among my peers. I think that was a good one. Then just after that, I think I was awarded by King something now. He's King of something now in Africa. He's the civility, is the ambassador of civility, global civility, and he award. I'm now an ambassador of the Golden Rule.
Excuse me.
I think, yes, so I'm a Golden Rule ambassador, and you know, we all know when we were growing up what the Golden Rule was.
Yes.
With others as well. I am a Golden Rule ambassador. I think that was a good one when I was awarded the Golden Rule ambassadorship. And then out of the blue, I think in 2017, a university in the States called me and said, we have seen your work. We looked at it. We looked at your CV. We want to offer you an honorary doctorate. Would you accept it? I'm like,
hello.
So I think in 3 phases of my life, I think those are 3 that I hung up on the wall somewhere among the many others. But I think those are 3 standout points, which I think, among many other things that you have been awarded by your peers, by your colleagues, by institutions, by the country, and so. But I give thanks. As you say, as a servant leader, we are here to serve.
That's awesome. All right.
I think about what I have. I don't think I have. I mean, in Philadelphia, I did a lot of top chefs and did a lot of that work in top chefs and stuff like that. A lot of food service awards. But I think what I take most pride in is being the first at a lot of different things. Like recently our intentional community was, I guess this is an award. We're one of the top 20 global intentional communities. And I was like, what? How did we even? When they called, I was like, what? Okay, we'll take it. But I was like, all right. And so we were very proud of that actually the dream that I had of doing it actually came to fruition, and we're here, we're doing it. So that's it. I mean, we have the first intentional, first organic farmers market, national organic market in Kingston. A lot of firsts, we're doing a lot of firsts here. And so I'm just excited about those things. I mean, there are other environmental trust awards and that kind of stuff. We've gotten those awards. And it feels good to do, but I feel like there's so much more that needs to get done. So I'm very excited that, we get the opportunity to really step up and to be in those spaces. And it's nice to get the recognition, but there's like so much more work that needs to get done.
And
So
that's
I'm
all
just
right.
excited. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So before we close out, I see that the chat has been very busy. So I think there are some comments that I want to share with you. I know that Uname, I saw you answering some questions, so that's great. Someone was interested in starting a roving seed bank in Jamaica. Who did they talk to? And Uname, you provided the Ministry of Agriculture to speak to the seed bank. So if anyone else is interested in that, that's the response. Melanie said, powerful discussion. Please share the application and benefits for those with special needs like autism. Good. That's a really great question. Really great question. Rainbow and Blossom, farming as a business isn't discussed enough. So as far as special needs.
So special needs, we are doing some work, not only with special needs, but with the disabled community. We just translated one of our most powerful work, the impacts of climate change on the disabled community, and we translated it in Braille, we're gonna be doing some more work this year with special needs community. I have a niece with autism, so it's a very real question, and therefore use, as you say, Auntie, don't use me as guinea pig. So we talk about it, but some work will come out soon in terms of from where I sit, not only with autism, but really with the community that needs and are impacted the most, including the women, the children, and so the youth as well. So very excellent question.
Awesome. Well, this has been an amazing discussion. It was a pleasure to virtually meet the three of you. I learned some stuff. I took some notes. So I learned some stuff about the agriculture sector that I did not know. We talked about your journeys. We talked about the challenges that women face. We talked about how we can introduce young girls to this sector. We talked about everything, all the opportunities that exist. We talked about leadership and your journeys and some tidbits that you've learned over the time. And then we celebrated. We celebrated your accomplishments, and we talked about balance versus harmony and how you've managed to do that. So we covered a lot in this hour and 15, a little over an hour and 15 minutes. So it's been an absolute pleasure to moderate this panel. It was wonderful to meet the three of you. I do hope that we keep in contact. I would love to keep in contact with the three of you. And those who are in Jamaica when I come this November, get to spend some time together. Thank you all for tuning in tonight for the Jamaica Diaspora Agriculture Taskforce Women's Month panel. We hope that you learned some stuff tonight. If you're interested in connecting with the Agriculture Taskforce, www.jdtan.org. You can go to that website and get all the information that you will need to be in touch with the Agriculture Taskforce. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good night.
Good to be here. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.